Hello. Today we're going to be talking about, this should be a pretty short stream overall. I think that I kind of just wanted to get some of the stuff that I'm currently working on out into the open. So the next update for this, for Distal, a high fantasy D20 based tabletop role-playing system that's built on conflict, consequence, character stories. I said that backwards, but you get the point. In trying to kind of slim down some of the elements of the game, because it's a very rules heavy system that focuses a lot on building classes, building characters, and anytime that you have a rule set that is that thick, it's difficult to move people from the game that you're currently playing to something else. There's always a sort of friction regardless, but it's especially difficult when you are creating a system that is mechanically intense. So currently getting prepared to work on the quick start guide for the game. But one of the things that I wanted to make sure was in place prior to is just how a GM can create activities for players to engage in. The place that I am kind of thinking about starting is with the idea that the majority of the lore, the setting in the world can't be like, I don't have 50 years like D&D did to build up a just amazing breadth of world. And quite frankly, that's not where my forte is. I'm very much better at design, balance, just mechanical interactions. I think in general is where I tend to excel. So I think that where I stand on this particular game is that I want to give the GM tools to create a world. I can just, being an experienced GM, I can very easily, actually, I don't think that I've ever run a Dungeons and Dragons campaign that wasn't just a homebrew setting, because I love world building, but when it gets to the point where you don't know who you're building it for, if you're just like making stuff that's never going to get accessed, that's never going to play a real part in the story, then it's just wasted time and effort. So with that being the case, I wanted to focus on key components. So like major cities, major races, factions, and that sort of thing. Things that have very specific hooks to them, and then just let the GM kind of interpret that information as they will by creating smaller adventures that could hook into some of those larger elements. With that being the case, I'm not fully there yet, but I wanted to kind of preview, walk through some very simple adventure building tools to offer to the GM. And the way that we're going to do that is by looking at Affinity. So Affinity is the program that I work in, kind of here, to format documentation. But quite frankly, I've been doing a lot of the word processing, so the creation in this program as well. It's not all bad. It's pretty easy to use. It's just harder to like spell check and stuff. Affinity doesn't have a great definition or a great dictionary to pull from and that sort of thing. But regardless, where I wanted to start is kind of back from the beginning. So introducing players to the world, I kind of wanted to give them a bunch of steps to walk through so that you can understand what your path to play is. In a rules light game, hey Henry, in a rules light game, you kind of just you have your rules set, and then there's a lot of interpretation, and the experience is very, I'd say, more human because you're interacting and discussing what should happen. But in a game that is more structured, rules heavy, it can be difficult to figure out what you're trying to have the players achieve at any given time, what sorts of monsters to throw at them if you're combat interested, what sorts of puzzles to throw at them if you want them to have a challenge to overcome. Oh, my volume is a little low. Okay, well, I'm just going to try to keep it right up next to my mouth. Actually, you know what? Give me just a moment. I think I could probably fix that. Oh, I see. Okay. Better, hopefully. That should be fairly turned up now. Well, I have to just edit it in post, which I never do for these streams. I just kind of leave it set. But hopefully with the combination of the two, it'll be a little bit better. Okay. So let's jump back in. So I described the gameplay loop as a string or a bunch of adventures being strung together to form a greater campaign. The characters are hi Typhon, Epsilon. The game is kind of meant to be a little bit, I feel like a little bit more West Marches in style than I was originally intending. But it'll totally depend on what the GM wants to do and what their characters want to do. It's very D&D in that sense, where you can just run an adventure, open a book, thumb through the pages, and then see where the adventure takes you. Or you can just make it up and have your players do whatever. I'm kind of partial to the latter, but I think that I'm going to lean that direction and then provide a little bit more structure for the individual adventures. So that being said, I kind of give them a bunch of their path to play there, and then we talk about what roleplay actually is, and then running a session 0, which many of you are probably familiar with, and then building an organization. This is a feature that is specifically meant to happen during the session 0, where it gives players the ability to determine how they want to play the game, essentially. They determine the reason that all of their characters are together adventuring and what that organization kind of looks like. So they roll it up or they talk about it. This is kind of a team building exercise to partake in the first, in their session 0. Then after that, we talk about planning the first adventure. We do have a single module that is available now. It's going to need to change a bunch, but that's one that can kind of get you started in playing. Everything's free, so you can go download it. And then we get to the adventure builder. So this is what I've been kind of working on lately, and I thought that it might be fun to just build an adventure going through these steps, and then we'll shake it out, see if this is enough, see if it's not enough, see if we need to create some clarity with the individual points. But basically, building an adventure is done on the 3 central pillars of the game. You want to focus on the character story, conflict that they undergo, and then the consequences for those actions. And the consequences are things that can more easily link you into future adventures so that you can string together more adventures and bring that into a campaign. So we are actually going to just duplicate this adventure builder, then nuke a bunch of stuff from it, and just walk through. We'll just play fill in the blanks. Boop. Okay. Take these 3, move them up. Okay, well now I don't have my guides. It's okay. This is all temporary. I'm going to delete it after anyway. But let's just walk through each step and then kind of talk about it. So who's your party? For the past few games, I've been playing with a few guests, and then our last session, we'll actually be recording that on Monday, barring no issues. And So I kind of have a pretty good idea of what's happened so far and a little bit of an understanding of where I would like them to go, because we have to wrap up the story in some way. Their adventure was basically they needed to figure out why all of all the creatures, all the hunting in the area had kind of dispersed around this really, really old ruins. And then there was like basically they learned that there was a portal that was down there sucking up a bunch of energy. And they walked through the portal. They ended up in a place that they are not familiar with. And then we need to wrap that story up. So being the Grim Guard, so I'm going to say participating characters. So we have Sayame, who is a ferryman. And then we have Zell, who is a elven cutpurse. Say Sayame is a Yvain ferryman. And then we have Udira? I think that's it. Who's an Ulstadr, big giant folk, elementalist. Okay, and then we take stock of the party interests, contacts. I know that Udira has no contacts. Zell has 2, Nemesis, and we've talked about who those contacts could be, kind of offline, which is something that you do with contacts. Saime has a contact too, but it seemed like she was keeping it kind of in a different plane, the plane that she came from, which was Isidri, the plane of storms. So we're not going to really touch that. But Zell had 2 interesting contacts, the first of which is potentially a friend that he betrayed just growing up. And then another one was it was somebody who was working for a monarch that has a legendary weapon. And I can't remember what he picked that particular contact up from. I think that he may have been part of this organization and then left it on not so great terms, or maybe he foiled something for this particular organization. Regardless, he knows, I'm going to say that Zell has a nemesis. He knows, has a nemesis that is a part of the Laelian Empire. So the Laelian Empire they're the people that came through the portal, one of them at least. Very foreign accent, talk just a little bit matter of fact, but also strangely. And they find themselves very much in this place where Laelian Empire is it's a monarchy, but it's a really small one, and they're expanding very rapidly. And Zell's theory is that the Laelian Empire is like trying to build portals so that they can blitzkrieg other areas, other territories, which is totally legit. And if that's the case, then it could be fairly easy to incorporate that nemesis contact. So I'll think about that for a little bit as we move on to the next section. And I'll say just kind of up front, building an adventure would probably be better served by, using this particular process would probably be better served for like a new adventure or a fresh one that you weren't so specifically moving through a story arc, but we're going to play with it and see where we end up. So we're going to use the outline generator, which is new, to build a premise for our adventure. Let's go down to the outline generator. So this is a quick tool that I've been putting together. It's nothing too crazy. It's very generic, but it gives you premises for adventure and then allows you to mix up the details. And there's a really good example there. I'll show it later. But there's other generators online that do this, I'm sure, 100% better. But for my purposes, this seems to kind of work. So one thing that we're going to do is we're just going to roll up the details. Roll? Actually, roll? I don't know. I did this last time too. I have dice somewhere. I just don't know where they are. If somebody wants to give me a random number 1 through 20 in chat, please feel free. I'll take the first one that comes along, and then we'll plug it into here and then see what falls out of it. And then we'll roll up a couple more numbers. Let me see if I have my dice though. Catastrophe. Henry says 16. Okay, let's start with that. Rolled right off of Google. Okay, cool. So let's go with 16. Let's see what happens. So oh, okay. This immediately sounds interesting. So a traitor within an organization is must be discovered before they sabotage some sort of political event. Okay. Somebody roll me 2 d12s, and then we'll flesh this out more. So I'm going to throw in the premise. Actually, I'll just drop it down here to keep it clean. But let's do that. Okay, so a traitor within an organization must be discovered before they sabotage the political event. I see a 3 from Daniel. So let's drop down to which organization is doing this. A merchant caravan. Okay. And then we'll plug that in here. So merchant caravan. Daniel has +5. All right, a +5. You have a +5 to stats. And then the political event would be a marriage between noble houses. Interesting. Okay. So we're going to go... All right, so a trader within a merchant caravan. It's a weird way to say, like, a bunch of traveling merchants must be discovered before they sabotage a marriage between noble houses. So how do we translate that? We could say something like so I can imagine maybe the Laelian Empire is trying to broaden their their kingdom, and maybe they've invited a bunch of people from like another kingdom. Instead of trying to cause problems with them, they're going to have some sort of marriage to strengthen bonds, and maybe they're dependent on each other for goods, just trade in general. Brought in their kingdom with a marriage, but who's getting married? Henry says the caravan is there specifically to bring stuff to the wedding, so the crew has access to the inner keep. Oh, that's very good. I like it. Laelian Empire is trying to the kingdom with the marriage. The merchant caravan is bringing supplies for the wedding. But dun dun dun. Okay. Trader time. Okay. That in itself, I could swing it. So yes, Zell has this nemesis, right? And they've also gone through some. So I think if I'm thinking about what the Grimguard is trying to do in this particular situation, and I probably need to talk to them about this too, kind of offline, because this isn't heroic fantasy. I've made the mistake of kind of pushing them into a heroic role. Not my intention. So I'm going to really punish them next time and make sure that they make decisions that are in their best interests to continue living. So with that being the case, regardless of the Lelian Empire, like trying to do these other tasks, you know, like push into enemy territory by building portals and that sort of thing, that's not the only thing that they're doing. Like the world still spins regardless of, you know, your actions in it. And because of that, I mean, I could even imagine them well, okay. So I say that, but you know what's interesting is that what if the kingdom they want to get closer to has optimal location to launch military operations from. There's way better words than this, but so maybe they're entering this bargain so that they can kind of like hold on to their forces instead of clashing. Because again, it's a small monarchy, but they might be trying to build it out. Oh, they're absolutely trying to build it out, and they might be expanding into this particular territory because there's like good locations to start, you know, to create either portals from, or maybe just like hide military forces. We ended on the Grimguard kind of trekking through a really dense forest on their way, hopefully, to civilization. And they were at some dilapidated church. So I can imagine the Lelian Empire just trying to gather forces and you know, closer to maybe this portal site or other portals. You know, who knows what else that they're doing in the area. But that being the case, I think that's a pretty good premise. And then make your party's organization specialization the focus. So this one doesn't really apply. That's where we started this whole adventure to begin with. Their focus is on archaeological exploits. So they go into ruins and ancient sites and that sort of thing. And that's where they do their best work. We've already done that. We're in it. You're on the other side of it. So, and they like to be paid in gold. So as far as motivations are concerned, money is a big one. But okay, so we did this. And then who are they doing it for? Are they really doing it for themselves? But they're also doing it for their reputation. But I actually don't even know what... Ooh. So one thing that I guess I didn't think about is that they have to have a reason to interfere with this, right? And so Zell will have some motivation, and I wonder if so that they can definitely fall into it. It's just because like stuff happens. However, that doesn't really close out a loop. Kind of just opens another one. Henry says, I feel like there's room to slip some archaeological stuff, theme stuff into the adventure still. Yeah, it's possible. Given that so our episodes only go like an hour long. In real life, they're like 2 hours, 2.5, if I'm really moving slowly and they're gracious enough to give me more time. But what you'll see is probably like condensed, you know, like an hour of footage chopped out. So with that being the case, got to keep the circle pretty tight. But I can imagine them just wanting to make a deal with a merchant caravan to leave, to go back home. That might be procuring horses. That might be just tagging along on their next adventure. It could be that the merchant caravan, because again, they're motivated by gold, the Grim Guard is, they might be able to get some of the Grim Guard to help them. Maybe it's not just a single trader. Maybe it's a plot. Or maybe they need bodyguards for the trip back. Maybe they will need bodyguards when things go south. So I'll just be thinking about that a little bit in the back of my head. If you have more suggestions, feel free to throw it out though. So who they're doing it for is mostly for themselves, but it could be for the merchants. Incorporate character contacts where it makes sense. So this is the point where I would talk about one of Zell's contacts could play a role. Let's see, who motivated your party to act? So it could be the merchant group, or it could be Zell's betrayed friend. Don't tell him that. But we could swing it that way, where that's like, where even though the friend is a part of this other empire, we might be able to say like, maybe even try to like mend that relationship, or maybe it could be like if they're hunting Zell, which seems to be the case based on some of the stuff that he's like alluded to. I think I cut some of that stuff out, but it seems like you could potentially, like Zell could like pay off this debt maybe, so that the Lalian Empire like doesn't owe him one, but could like break even. So maybe I'll set it up so that Zell can choose who to side with. And I know John is a player, so I don't know. It could be a little bit difficult to get him to take one or the other path instead of just one. I don't know. We'll have to see though. I think John tends to put a lot of himself into the characters that he plays, and I know he's trying not to do that. It's like been a goal of his, if I remember right. But it's also just a very difficult thing to do because we are informed by our experiences. So it can be difficult to kind of step into the shoes of somebody else altogether. So the conflict. Take note where the party begins. So they are, they're in the forest of, I don't actually know what this place is called. Forest outside of, I'm going to say they're outside of Wymondel, which is a place that I made up because I had been thinking about this before, but I want to say that for now. And then flesh out where the party will end up. So they will end up in Wymondel, most likely. And create 3 facts about the area. 1 known to most, 1 learned from locals, and then 1 secret detail. So I know that they're going to end up in Wymondel, but I also think that they might just be in the forests around there. Like there might be some stuff that we could do. So I'm going to say that, and hopefully none of them are watching this. I'm going to say that one of the, okay, so the 1 known to most, even though this is a foreign area for our players because they're from the King's Canvas, they might know, so they already know that this is like the Lalian Empire. But I think most people would know that let's see, travel between towns is long, and I'm just leaning into the merchant thing. And merchants are, or groups of I don't know if I want that one. Travel between towns is long. Groups of nomadic merchants are common. Why don't we say that? Oh, you know what? Let's do the. So what is the other empire? I haven't thought about it. Just like the adjacent one. So if we're doing a marriage, let's make Wymondel the I'm just gonna make this the monarchy. This might change later, but the Wyman Empire. What's smaller than that? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Wyman Empire is known to supply or to be the main source of agriculture, trade for the surrounding empires. And that might be why why they have power. It's just they have a lot of land. They can farm crops. In the winter, things might get a little bit sketchy, which also might be why the Lelian Empire is taking advantage of the weakness of this other empire to, I don't know, to enter into some sort of marriage. Kingdom, realm, domain, territory. So Wyman territories. Let's do that. That's fun. Okay, and then one learned from locals. What could they... Oh, you know what? So this is something that I want to do because I had been thinking about it prior to. I have been hunted to extinction. So wolves in the area have been hunted to extinction. And it's hard to get wolf fur. Or like... And wearing wolf fur is a status symbol. Okay, and then the last one. Province. Wyman territories. Yeah, what's like a principality? Like a bunch of territories run by a prince? Is that what that is? I don't know. I'm going to revisit that. Okay, and then one secret detail. So the secret that I wanted to do is, I don't know if this makes sense to do because it's not really going to factor into things. But I'm going to write it down anyway because I'm excited about it. A being known as the Wayra has been is said to roam the forests and devour hunters at night. Wayra is said to roam the forests. No one says its name. Okay. So that's what I want. It might not relate to the story. I have this moment in my head that I think would be fun, but also it'll just make things take longer. So I don't know if I'll actually play with it, but we'll see. So we're going to determine what people or monsters inhabit the space. So once they get to Wyman, or rather Wymondel, yeah, pretty much Henry. So something like that. Let's see. Determine what people or monsters inhabit the space. So the Lelian army has a small contingency outside the city of Wymondel. In preparation for the ceremony. So why are they there, and for how long? So, oh, and then we also need like the people of Wymondel, which I'm imagining is like a central location that has some sort of military presence. Are it's the only let's see. Could do some stuff like only visitors with permission are able to enter the city at the moment, which comes at an unfortunate time. So I'm going to say that a bunch of people are held up outside the city too. Commoners are... There's too much going on here. So I am totally going to call this down, but a bunch of commoners seeking to enter Wymondel are left outside until the ceremony concludes. Okay. Determine why they're there and for how long. So Leyland Empire is here until the ceremony is complete. And then we're going to generate a battlefield combat area. I've already done this in Alchemy. Like I already have what we're doing right now kind of like plays into what I was already thinking about, which is why I'm kind of excited about this. But we're going to go through and use the battlefield generator anyway to see what happens. Okay, so if I scroll down, this is something that I've already built prior to this. But we need a bunch of D6 rolls, basically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 D6 rolls if somebody wants to light it up in chat. Let's see, I'm digging through. There's a lot of stuff going on that makes the area for narratively it might be tough to navigate. Yeah, what I think I need to do is still just kind of be super hyper focused on the thing that is happening, being the ceremony, and then the rest is kind of surrounding detail. And then you kind of bounce off of it. And then whenever it comes into play, that's when you loop it in. But hopefully I'll be able to sort through it, because it definitely can slow things down. And that's kind of an unfortunate part of our limited time slot. 5, 2, 3, 6, 5, 2, 3, 5, 6. Okay. Okay, so survive an onslaught. Okay. I'm going to write this too. Battlefield. So we're going to survive an onslaught. And to kill their leader. Okay. This is a secondary objective. And then if I look at battlefield shape, so 3, a funnel. Perfect. Which a funnel looks like this, is how I imagine it. So there's a singular, in this case, like either an escape point, or it's the entry point, or it's the exit point. So there's just a bunch of areas that lead into one place, which I think that kind of jives with what I was going for too. Funnel there. In a funnel. And then what, 5, 6. Okay. Let's go down to 5. And the topography. A river runs through it. Okay, I could dig it. So there's some sort of river that intersects the battlefield. So we're going to do that. And then what's the last detail? It's kind of like the oddball. Local fauna. Non-hostile local fauna that startles easily and provides contextual distraction. So this one we don't really need. There's going to be a bunch of this other stuff anyway, just like walls and cover. I'm going to write it down I can imagine just like there's some birds that are chilling up on a wall, and there might be some guards up on that wall too. So you might be able to like cows. Oh, cows! I like cows. Sure. So there might be some cows in a field, or maybe even if it's the outside of the city, funneling into the inside, there might be just livestock, I guess. Maybe one of the merchants brings a bunch of livestock, but can't get it through because the guards say that's ridiculous. We don't need it right now. So they're just like chilling there with a bunch of cows and don't know what to do with them. So could be that. Okay, so that's the battlefield. And actually, we need to move this down a little bit. Cool. Let's see. So what's the challenge? Level appropriate stat blocks for monsters and enemies. Section near the document. Okay, so I'm probably just gonna have to. I don't want to call it homebrew. It's not really that, is it? But we can go through and just see. We can pick up a handful of monsters, and then just see what happens. I've been working on monsters a lot yesterday and today, but I don't think that there's going to be too much there for. So humanoids certainly. So just some baseline level or baseline mobs. I think we're going to pick up. Oh, yeah, there's nothing too crazy in here right now. I'll have to make some stuff up. But like the mercenary, we can definitely pick up. This is just like a regular mob for, they can like raise a shield and then protect allies nearby, and they can daze you if they pommel strike you. This should be like a good meaty one to, you could probably have a couple of these on the battlefield. And then they very much represent normal people, so it's easy to work with. There's an arsonist. I think I'm going to make some archer. I don't really want to use an assassin. It's probably too much. Yeah, the mercenary for sure. What I actually might do is use, there's an undead mercenary, or it's like a lieutenant that has some cool stuff in it, and I might just use their stat block. So like the Gasling lieutenant is it's a boss, and they have a flail. They're hard to hit. They the allies have +2 to hit near them, so they're just going to make the battlefield more perilous. And they can shield targets that they can see, which you can just reskin this instead of like a bone shield. You can reskin it as, I mean, it could make this into like some sort of paladin-like character. And then their desperation ability is Bone Wall, which it just conjures 3 walls that are meant to. I mean, it just creates cover, which I guess that's not too crazy. But I can imagine this easily being some sort of Justicar, paladin-like character. Or we can use the Inquisitor, which is probably more fun, where it's just really smart. Maybe, of course, I'd have to figure out who the traitor is. But one of the people who comes in with the traders, with the merchants, is like this retired wizard or something similar. Or like maybe like a court wizard or something. And they act like the role of this Inquisitor, where they can heal allies, and they can cast their desperation thing is like an Iron Maiden, so it makes it so people who move take damage. That might work. I think it'll depend on what we want to go for, but and then if we want just something that's just kind of just hits hard, it's like pull an Axeman or something, and then remove the resistances, and then you're good. Super easy. Okay, let's go back to Oh no. I'm going to have to run through all my rules. Okay, cool. So that's that. We'll just make a quick note. We'll say mercenary, inquisitor, and then we need something with range, which I don't really have right now. I'm gonna create an archer of some sort, some sort of artillerist. Okay, and then create a separate obstacle that makes this adventure a challenge. So limited time, geography, magical events, weather. Could use weather. It's easy to do. It could just be raining, just a deluge of rain, which has effects on the battlefield. It's called downpour. It's a new extreme weather situation. Except this is like winter, and that probably wouldn't make sense. We could make the battlefield just like really foggy. You know, maybe the sun is kind of like burning off some of the snow of the day. Yeah, Henry says, might as well create stuff that fits what you need specifically and then add it to your monster section. Yeah, that's what I've been doing kind of as I just move through and play the game or play test it with just friends and so on. So create a separate obstacle that makes this adventure a challenge. I feel like it could be civilians might be in the way. I think that the might be in the way. Panic in the streets. That's the vibe that I'm getting. We'll see if that turns out. Okay, and come up with a way that the party might be able to overcome that challenge easy. So if for some reason they're able to tip off the these civilians and like kind of get them to leave, and I'm expecting like a red wedding sort of situation here. Doesn't need to be that, but influence people to. What if they're like able to rally against the? Okay, well, so I think this kind of depends on the outcome, but the enemies. I keep wanting to make the Lelian Empire kind of the bad guys here, but that may not be the case. Okay, so we'll just kind of move on and see what happens. Write down 3 possible outcomes that might occur. How does the party succeed? So in this particular situation, they find the traitor. Let's say they subdue the traitor or find a way to get home. Okay, we'll find a way to get, let's see. So how can the party succeed? So we could say, they can purchase horses or be a part of the caravan as it leaves. Avoid detection from Lelian Empire. This was in the case of Zell. And then I was gonna tongue in cheek, right? Avoid dying, but you know, they could also could also find a wizard that can open the portal, the one that they couldn't reopen. That's a possibility. From the non-heroic point of view, just surviving might be enough. Yeah. Definitely want to see. Yeah, I want there to be a threat on the party's life roll, so it's not fun for me personally. How could this adventure be derailed? They could. They could just straight up try to attack the Lalian Empire. It'd be stupid, but stupid happens a lot. They could. I don't know. They could go back and try to open the portal themselves? Question mark? Maybe. Write down 3 repercussions of the adventure. So the repercussions of success. So if they were to succeed, I think ideally the let's see, Lalian Empire and okay, so I kept phrasing this as like a traitor, right? Must be discovered before they sabotage a marriage between noble houses. But then I was saying that the Lalian Empire and the Wymondel territories, provinces, whatever, they're joining into a relationship. So is it success to let them do that? Or is it success to find the traitor and dispatch with it so that they can do that, potentially cause problems elsewhere? Or is it a success to let the traitor do his thing? Oh no. It's ambiguous, just how I like it. Let's see, the marriage. So for success, the marriage goes off. People are let back into the city, and no fight occurs. Or rather, no political distress. But actually, this is probably the okay. So, but Lalian Empire becomes stronger and can potentially attack other areas. So the portal's open. The person who opened the portal, the Fury, Madame Gastrie, is dead, but chances are a wizard that is practiced could probably figure out how to reopen it. And I think the Lalian Empire, just with their, the Empire resources, the Empire's resources, could be able to figure out how to find somebody, contract them to do this too. But, okay, so the repercussions of failure. Let's see, Wymondel is, I'm going to say that Wymondel is assaulted by, so I keep imagining the traitor stopping the marriage. I imagine them assassinating somebody. Assassination is great. It allows you to pit people against one another. So Wymondel could be assaulted by the Lalian army, which displaces the people. Just a massive battle royale. And then party needs to find a different way home. Now the repercussions of doing nothing are very much like the repercussions of failing. Except I'm going to interpret this as they could potentially do something else. So the repercussions of doing nothing, if they just say like, hey, we need some horses. Can we do that? And then, pay you for these horses and so we can go. Potentially the, say, bloodbath still occurs. But the Grim Guard doesn't need to participate. So you survive. So how long did it take us to talk through and then make up all this. When did we start? A little bit less than an hour at the very least. And granted, this could go much faster if we're just dumping a bunch of stuff on paper. But this is it. The building out an adventure, start to finish, using the prep for our session. Well, I say start to finish, but you would need to go through and like arrange the battle map. We're using Alchemy VTT, which I think I already have a battle map set up that fits this particular situation, so I've already done some of the groundwork. But this helps flesh out a lot of what is going on. I think I'll still need to go in, come up with names for people, come up with tighter hooks so that it could very clearly give the Grimguard a goal. Because this merchant thing, the marriage between noble houses, that's sort of like happening in the background. And it doesn't quite align with the goals of the Grimguard unless there's some intervention. So like, yeah, you know, if you're trying to buy horses, for example, people might say, yeah, that's fine, but we won't be able to give you the horses until after the ceremony because we need to make sure that, you know, they don't want them or that whatever. Or like, you know, we're busy, scram. You know, it might be like you know, they already know that there's a traitor in their midst and they, or maybe there's like some merchants that just, they want to get into the city and they've on good faith, maybe brought goods for the wedding, but they're still being denied because of like security concerns. Maybe that's something that the Grimguard can like figure out, get them into the city, and then other stuff can happen from there. But so there's still some stuff that needs to be fleshed out, but this is a pretty good basis for an adventure. And it's pretty similar. There's some more steps, but it's pretty similar to my own personal prep. Yeah, I don't know what you think. That's about it. That's all we were really hoping to do in this particular stream, was to kind of walk through and talk about this adventure builder. Hopefully it's asking the right questions. There might be too much, might be too little. I'm still trying to figure it out. The outline generator, I think I've gotten rid of all the weird responses. There was definitely some stuff in there before that was like, this doesn't make sense. There's probably still some more of that, but there's a bunch more options now that will give people some ability to play with different potential outcomes. You know, actually I'll show you this too. So this is Don John. And there's so many generators on this site that I personally find a lot of this stuff a little bit overwhelming. But so here's like a random adventure generator. You can change the theme, you click on it. In this adventure, some villain has so offended one or more of the characters that he cannot be suffered to live. Alternatively, the injured party could hire the characters to avenge his honor. The villain must be found or otherwise gotten at, setting up a final duel or showdown between. Like this is boom, 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 boom. Very much plot line. The goal could be different. The story hook could be different. That's like who gets you into the adventure. The climax could be, there's so much stuff here that I think it's too much when trying to prep an adventure. But if somebody wanted to use a generator like this for this game, for Distal, I think it makes sense if that's kind of a part of your style of over prep. But for me, it's just it's too much. Okie dokie. That is it. Just kind of wanted to hang out, show you some stuff. But I think that's where we're going to end it. Thank you so much for hanging out. If you want to download the core rules for Distal, you can do that at playdisrpg.com. And they're free. The next version is going to be released hopefully within the next 2 weeks. I think it will. I kind of want to do the quick start guide before then, but we'll see. Oh, real quick. Okay, I know I'm wrapping up, but let me just, nope, that's not it either. Yeah, check this out. Let me know what you think about. So this is the cover art. This is a weird border that doesn't need to be here, but I'm not really sure if I should keep it or not. And then the other, let's see, there's a new. I've done a bunch of different versions of this. Like this is 1, 2. Right now this is all kind of stretched. It's actually in the wrong aspect ratio, but it's not too far off. Kind of like this better. It's because it's cleaner. And I could probably just drop the whole border. One thing that I like to do is just like distress all these stuff because it's about, you know, having like a fractured world. So I like, it's kind of like tearing into some of the lines and stuff to represent it. But I don't know. I think this is probably a decent enough point though to release. It looks legit. One thing that it reminds me of is a little bit too much of just the theme of what is it, Mythic Bastion Land, which is a really recent released game. It's kind of like Arthurian. Actually, I think it's all Arthurian legend, but pushed way further. And it has some, you know, some similar script. A lot of games do this though, so that's why I'm kind of back and forth on it. And then I was thinking about Disney, just by like I don't know if that hits people right in the face when they glance at it, but it might. Okay, all right, I'm leaving. Thanks again for hanging out. We'll catch you next time.